The essence of training. This is what I wanted to share with you. Part 1 is the problem. Part 2 tomorrow is going to be the solution in our opinion, right? What things we most often get wrong in our training. If you remember, well, Stephen Covey said it probably best, the way we see the problem is often the problem. That was certainly for me yesterday, it's certainly for me today, and it will certainly be a problem for me from here on out. I've got to realize that sometimes just the way I look at the problem is the problem. And as long as I'm open to that, it gives me my best chance of changing it. Now, if some of you young guys may not have even seen this movie, I would highly recommend you go back and see it. It is The Untouchables with Kevin Costner, young Kevin Costner. Look how handsome he looks, Amy. I noticed, all right? So, in this scene in the movie, and it's an awesome scene, and it tells us everything. It's like Coach Foley. It's like Kevin Costner is your assistant coach, and you wish you would have heard something like this from your assistant coach. But this Canadian Mountie comes up and he has this plan about how he's going to get composed men, and he says, thus taking them from the rear and by surprise from the rear, and surprise, you very well know, Mr. Ness is half the battle. Very proud in his pony sitting up there, and immediately Kevin Costner, who is Elliot Ness, is one pissed off human being because he's listening to this arrogance, and he says, he wiggles in his saddle, if you remember the movie, and he said, surprise is half the battle. Many things are half the battle. Losing is half the battle. Let's think about what is all the battle. Let's take the fight to them. And I think that's what we've got to do. We have focused a lot of times on what half the battle is, and we pat ourselves on the back. Yes, by taking them by surprise. Okay, I've done it, you've done it. We pat ourselves on the back. We need to pay attention to what is all the battle. We also look for the easy button, right? The silver bullet, the magic recipe. I'm telling you, doesn't exist. If it was, we'd have figured this out a long time ago. It's not there. Now, what coaches do, and let me ask you if this is you, right? Certainly me in my career, right? I'm old and I've done this a long time. What I used to do is I used to have my checkbox. All right, strength program. We're getting stronger and bigger. Check. Right? Make my victory lap around. Yes. Right? Stretching, we're getting more mobile and flexible. Check. Conditioning, we're improving our fitness, our endurance, and our stamina, which is a loaded question, right? You're improving your endurance as a pitcher. I will show you how absolutely ludicrous that is. What does that mean? And then arm care, we're improving the efficacy of soft tissue and prepare to throw. Now that sounds really good, right? I mean that sounds good, right? Throwing program, we're building our arm strength and good mechanics, what the hell ever that means, right? I hear this all the time. We're really, our staff has pretty good mechanics. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but good for you, right? I have no idea what that means. PFPs, we're solid on our defensive skills. Bullpens, we're throwing strikes and have a good feel for pitching. We're gonna make sure we get our bullpens in. And shagging and fungo, we're really helping out the hitters and infielders, right? So we got all our check boxes, and man, we feel good. Let the winning proceed, right? Unfortunately, there's a whole bunch of people that do that and then go out there and get their proverbial butts kicked because no one actually cares if you got your box checked, right? That ain't gonna work, right? So it's just like Lee Corso, not so fast, right? Not so fast. You're not ready for the winning yet. We have to take a look at this a little deeper. This one-size-fits-all store, right? This is the problem with the check boxes, right? It's simple for us. It makes us feel good. We got this weight program, everybody does it. We got this throwing program, everybody does it. We got this conditioning program, everybody does it. And we sleep pretty well at night, and when we lose, we just blame our players, right? We just didn't have the talent this year, right? This is the way it goes again and again and again. And we're always hoping for better talent. This was a tweet that was, as a matter of fact, as I was just picking on Eugene not too long ago. I'm not on Twitter, so I have to have Jill or Flint or Garrett send me a tweet because I won't see it. You could call me anything on Twitter, I won't see it because I'm not on it, right? I don't care, right? I get the efficacy of it. Our business is on it and on Facebook, but I don't. I just cannot. I can't do it. It's not me, right? To me, it's just this vapid thing that I can't get my head around. But anyhow, here's a tweet, and it was directed at people like me or people like you, right? Athletes get fed this fairy tale of hyper-individualized program, but don't realize that the majority of them have the same deficit and likely won't need to be treated like a unicorn, okay? That was a comment by somebody that should know better. Now, when I read something like this, I laugh. I want you to know, when I read this, when they give that thing, it was intended to tick me off. I laughed. It was a good belly laugh, right? I wish things were this easy and simple. I actually laughed out loud when I heard it. This person has no idea, not an inkling, and should, what we're doing and what I'm talking about in hyper-personalization, right? But I do like the picture of the unicorn, right? My granddaughter, Campbell, loves unicorns, so it was my chance to, when else, Wes, do you get a chance to put a unicorn on your thing? This is a rare experience. So now, here's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about hyper-personalization. This is just this understanding of the complexity that we're heading forward. And here's a word that I think you've got to get. There are two words that keep us from being great coaches. And it's not intellect, it's nothing. It's humility and empathy. And if we don't have that, you're a dangerous human being, and may not to be today, but you will be, right? It's humility, knowing that you're not ever gonna solve all the problems and have this all figured out. I don't care how hard you try, we're gonna still fall short. And then empathy, really truly try to understand that person's perspective, not that you agree with it, right? There are a lot of people that I empathize with that I don't agree with at all, right? But I try to find it from their perspective. Now take a look at these 7 guys that are throwing the baseball. These are 7 of the top 50, certainly, that have ever thrown a baseball. There's Denny McClain, Nolan Ryan, Mo Rivera, Roy Oswalt, Randy Johnson, Tom Seaver, and Juan Marichal. Do they use their pelvis the same way? Now, I know we were talking about principles, and that's true. But specifically, this is what I like, what I've heard so far from a couple people already today, or the last couple days. Sometimes we get too close to it. We need to back up and look at it from a broader standpoint, right? Certainly, teaching everyone to use their pelvis a certain specific way, that's not a good idea. So this is what I'm talking about, hyper-personalization, right? It's much safer if I said everybody's got to do X. That's not true. Now, this is, every time I see CC, it makes me laugh, right? It's like I remember whenever I see a picture of CC Sabathia, I'm reminded of Tommy Lasorda that said that something along the lines that CC Sabathia got in a race with a pregnant woman and finished 3rd. So there we go, right? But it's just, so of course we have Chris Sale, who kind of, if he sat sideways in a class and we were a teacher, we might count him absent, right? He's paper thin, and then we have CC Sabathia, looks like 3 people. So to say that we should treat everyone the same, it's absurd, and you guys know it is. And so when we use the word hyper-personalization, people are like, oh, no, it really does. It's just being open to that change. And then we have Tim Collins, in which the catcher dwarfs him, and then we have Randy dwarfs the catcher, right? There's a big difference in these things. And then we take a look at these movement patterns. These are going to be different. They're just unique. They're different, right? I didn't say one is good or bad or worse, they're just different, and we have to understand that difference. What about this? You got two people coming in, right? You're gonna train these guys the same? You're gonna treat them the same? I mean, this young kid, I mean, he doesn't have any musculature, right? Right? So, I'm reminded of my father telling me way back, right? I'm sure you remember times with your dad. Hopefully he's still alive. Mine has passed away, and so if he's still alive today, call him tonight and just say, hey, because I do that for me because I wish I could do. But my dad used to say to me that he is good with a hammer, thinks everything is a nail. You know, and I'd go, pfft. And then, you know, that's when I was 16. And then when I was 25, like, damn, that's smart, right? Dad got so much smarter in this last 7 years. He must have read a book or something. But that's really true, right? That's really true, right? So we really tend to focus on what we're good at. And so if we're really good at something, we're really good at mechanical efficiency, right? We're gonna fix everything with mechanics. Or we're good with physical structure. Because I've heard physical therapists that are very good say, you know what, if this is fixed, then this. And I love this thing. If this, then this, which is not true, right? It's not true. It's like, it can help, right? Just like if I say to you, if you smoke, you're gonna get cancer. Is that true? No, there's people that are 98 years old. I just saw a lady the other day, got 100th birthday, and they asked her, she was a pack of cigarette every day since she was 30 years old, and also goes to the bed with a little nip of scotch. And so she said her secret was cigarettes and scotch. Well, you're gonna argue with that? How many people you know live 100 years, right? Well, my point is, I don't think that's probably right, but just because you smoke and it's because you had a nip of scotch every night, that doesn't mean now you're gonna have a dirt nap at 45. It's just like we gotta be thinking about this a little broader. What we can expect, and I want you to be on the lookout for this for you guys. This is where we get caught. I just wanna have kind of a personal conversation with you so that you don't get caught, right? Because this used to happen to me. As I said before, here's what we can expect, the bell curve, when we take the general population and we enforce a singular monolithic program on that. Doesn't matter what it is, here's what's gonna happen. 2% are just gonna succeed incredibly well, 14% are gonna really make improvement, 68% are not gonna do much good. Either way, it won't affect them much. 14 goes slightly better, and 14 goes slightly backward, and 2% is catastrophic. Now, here's what we do as human beings. You've seen this, right? If you've not seen it, maybe, even if you've seen it, maybe you've actually experienced it. What do we do? So if I'm just gonna I'm gonna throw me under the bus rather than you. Randy, I'll throw you under the bus later, so what do? I go on the website, and what do? I highlight what? The 16% that are really doing well, right? What about the 68%? They're probably just not motivated. And then the 2% that really are bad, they're just either motor morons or they're horrible people because they didn't do very well under my system. Right? And then I repeat the process again, right? And so I think to break the chain, you have to do this. And here's what I would recommend you do. Because here's what broke my chain. Eric Bender broke my chain. Now he's with the Cleveland Indians. Eric Bender worked his tail off one whole summer. I mean, he busted it. And he went from 80 miles an hour to 80 miles an hour. It made no difference. Right? Could dunk a basketball, athletic. It made zero difference. And I mean, every day he showed up and he went to work. And this was 10 weeks, right? I had to say to myself, where am I going wrong? And that's when we started blending. Because what actually happened was Eric could throw a baseball and long toss about 370 feet. And if you just think about it, you throw a baseball 370 feet, Wes, you're 80 off the mound. Something in, as we say in East Texas, something in the milk ain't white, right? It doesn't compete. So we actually literally, I sit there in bed with the ceiling fan going, what? How am I going to help this guy? And so I finally got to the idea, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to blend the long toss to the mound and see if I can get it to transfer. Sound good to you, right? Right? I was like, yeah. Got out of bed, give myself a little high five, break! Raced in, had some eggs and bacon and headed off to the ranch, right? So the couple days before, this was over a weekend, I had Royce Vest, who was one of my guys. I said, I want to build a mound right here. And he goes, right here? I go, you're right here. He goes, Coach, that's right in the middle of our long toss area. I go, that's right. Right there. So we built a mound right where the long toss was, and here's what he did. He went through 370 feet, walked over on the mound, and here's how I pictured this, just so you know, here's how I pictured this whole beautiful thing to happen. He would go out, he'd throw 370, walk over the mound and go, wham! And the harps would play, and it'd be 92 and be, woo! Here's what happened. He threw a 370, walked over the mound and went, 80 miles an hour. And I had the radar gun, right? And I'm back there, I'm ready for this epiphany. Pooh. Ooh. Right? Now, I could have lied, but that's not good. Right? I'm like, and Eric's like, what is it? And I go, don't you worry about it. Don't you worry about what I'm spending all my time looking at. So I'm panicked, right? Because this did not work. It sounded so great at 7 in the morning, but it wasn't working well. And I said, so I just kind of panicked and I said, so go out there, go back on that long toss and do it again, right? I don't know what else. I'm just buying time because I got nothing for him. He goes out and his next throw on long toss, which would be 360, 370, was 320. It blended all right. It blended that way, right? So I said, I didn't know what I was doing. I said, all right, tell you what, Bender, you're not getting back on this mound till you got 370 again. That'll give me at least 30 seconds to figure out what the hell I'm going to do next. He got out to 370 again. He walked over on the mound. 85 came out. Then I go, ooh, go back there. Guess what? Back down to 320. Got out to 370, came back on the mound, 87. It eventually worked, but it took some time. That was the start of blending. Not a very inauspicious start, was it? But that's how it started, right? And it all started with me with this 68% not going well, and not me saying, well, that's Bender's problem. The problem with Bender is his mom and dad and his genes that he get, right? No. This guy's working his butt off, and if the system really works, we should start to see. I don't say he's going to be, and by the way, he ended up to pitch professionally, right? So now, I want to urge all of you not to focus on your stars. Focus on the guys that are working, not the ones that are slackers, but the ones that are working that are not seeming to get very good. You got to start to be curious on why they're stuck. That's what I urge you to do. Instead of just proclaiming your stars because they're good because of your process, and then throwing everybody else under the bus. And I don't mean like you're literally throwing anybody else under the bus, but you're actually discarding them, right? One-size-fits-all programming never works nearly as well as we think or hope it does, and in fact will almost always have deleterious effects to a certain portion of the population it is imposed upon. I talked in the bonus night about penicillin. Penicillin has saved, and by the way, Randy, my daughter hates me using the analogy. She says, "Can you get another analogy?" And I said, no. Penicillin is still one of the best analogies, is that it saved millions of lives in World War I and World War II, and yet there's how many people in this audience are allergic to penicillin, right? So it's good except for when you're allergic to it and you don't want to use it. This is why one size fits all will never work. It just won't, right? So what we do at the Ranch Consortium is, because we can use a constraint-led, hyper-personalized approach, it's allowed us to skew the results.